worst words associated with the National Basketball Association right now is load management.
Like she gets to do a little bit more, and then we see tomorrow, is there progress or is there any regression? How does she feel? How does she look?
The Indiana Fever are suddenly dealing with a situation they did not expect. Fans are pulling back, and it is starting to show. Preseason ticket sales are dropping fast. Frustration is building, and the organization has even taken to social media trying to rally people to show up. That is not normal for a team that was once selling out arenas with ease. So what changed? A lot of fingers are pointing toward head coach Stephanie White, and more specifically, how she has handled the Caitlin Clark situation. What seemed like a cautious approach behind the scenes is now turning into a full-blown backlash, and this story goes beyond just basketball decisions. It all started with the way White has addressed the media. Every time reporters brought up Caitlin Clark and her preseason status, the responses felt uncertain and non-committal. Instead of making it clear that her superstar would be ready to go, White kept things vague, saying they would evaluate things closer to game time, even suggesting a decision might come just a day before tip-off. Think about that. We are talking about the face of the franchise, the player who completely transformed the Fever's relevance. And the message fans are getting is, we'll see. Here is where things really start to fall apart. Caitlin Clark has already spoken publicly and made it clear she is fully healthy. After 8 long months of recovery, discipline, and work, she came out and said she is back to 100%. That did not come from a team statement or PR spin. That came directly from Clark herself. So when the head coach continues to lean on cautious language and avoids giving a straight answer, fans are not interpreting that as smart management. To them, it feels like something else is going on, and they are reacting in the most direct way possible. They are not showing up. This is not just a wave of online complaints that fades after a couple of days. It is translating into real numbers. Ticket sales for preseason games have taken a noticeable hit, and the Fever are now in the uncomfortable position of publicly asking fans to fill seats. That is a dramatic shift. This is the same team that had packed arenas, national buzz, and a level of excitement that was hard to match just a season ago. People were lining up just for a chance to see Caitlin Clark in person. Now, the energy has flipped, and the message from fans is simple and consistent. No Clark, no interest. At the core of all this is a reality the organization cannot ignore. The Indiana Fever's surge in popularity is directly tied to Caitlin Clark. That is not criticism of the rest of the roster. It is just the truth of the market. Before Clark arrived, the Fever were struggling to capture attention. Attendance was average, media coverage was limited, and there was little national spotlight. The moment Clark stepped onto the court, everything changed. The crowds grew, the spotlight intensified, and the franchise became one of the most talked about teams in the league. Now, with uncertainty surrounding her presence, that momentum is starting to slip, and the response from fans is making it clear exactly why. If anyone still questions just how much the Fever's success revolves around Caitlin Clark, all they need to do is rewind to last season. The moment Clark got injured and stepped away from the court, everything shifted, and fast. Resale ticket prices didn't just dip, they collapsed. Games that once demanded top dollar suddenly became easy to get into, not because more fans wanted in, but because demand disappeared. The same pattern showed up on TV. Without Clark, viewership dropped, the buzz faded, and the energy inside arenas just wasn't the same. The excitement that once surrounded Fever games vanished, and the broader spotlight quickly moved on. So how did the organization respond when that happened? Instead of being upfront and simply riding it out until Clark returned, there were clear attempts to redirect attention. Bringing in players like Aaliyah Boston and Sophie Cunningham looked like an effort to keep interest alive and shift the narrative. But here's the problem. You cannot outsmart a fan base that is locked in. Fever fans pay attention. They understand what they are watching, and they saw right through it. To them, it felt like the team was trying to repackage the product without its most important piece. And they didn't buy it. That moment created a crack in trust. And now, with the way Stephanie White is handling Clark's preseason situation, that crack has widened into something much bigger, a full-on backlash. What makes this situation even harder to defend is what just unfolded on the international stage. While White was giving careful, measured answers about managing Clark's minutes and easing her back slowly, Caitlin Clark was overseas in San Juan, Puerto Rico, dominating at the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament with Team USA, and dominate is not an exaggeration. Team USA went a perfect 5-0, steamrolling through Senegal, Puerto Rico, Italy, New Zealand, and Spain. The margin? A staggering plus 210-point differential across those games. And at the center of it all was Clark. In her very first game back after 239 days away from competitive action, she wasted no time making a statement, 17 points and 12 assists in just 19 minutes against Senegal. 12 assists in under 20 minutes. That performance alone was historic, marking the second highest assist total ever recorded in a FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying game, and it came in her senior national team debut, and she didn't slow down from there. Over the course of the tournament, Clark averaged 11.6 points per game while shooting an efficient 52.9% from the field and 40% from beyond the arc. But what really separated her was her playmaking, 6.4 assists per game, the highest of any player in the entire tournament, not just Team USA. She also posted the top efficiency rating on the roster at 14.6, proving her impact went far beyond just scoring. The result? Caitlin Clark walked away as the TSOT MVP, the best player on the most dominant team in the tournament, and she did it coming off an 8-month injury layoff. Now here is where things become impossible to ignore. Stephanie White was there. She was part of that Team USA coaching staff. She had a front row seat to every performance. She watched Clark control games, push the pace, and dismantle elite international competition without any visible limitations. So there is no mystery here, no guesswork, no uncertainty about Clark's condition. White saw it all unfold in real time and still returned talking about caution, day-to-day decisions, and limiting minutes. At that point, it stops looking like careful coaching. It starts to look like a calculated decision, and if there's still any doubt that this situation runs deeper than simple caution, just look at what Indiana did in the 2026 WNBA draft. With the 10th overall pick, Stephanie White selected Raven Johnson, a point guard. On paper, adding depth at that position sounds logical. No issue there. But the explanation is where things started to raise eyebrows. When White was asked how bringing in another guard helps the team, her answer focused on easing the load for Kelsey Mitchell and balancing the backcourt rotation. That all sounds fine until you realize something glaring. Not once did she mention Caitlin Clark. Think about that for a second. You draft a point guard in the top 10, and in your explanation, you don't even reference the player who defines your entire system at that position. Fans picked up on that instantly, and the reaction was immediate. Social media lit up. Fans weren't subtle about it either. They called it exactly how it looked. A slow, calculated shift toward making Clark feel less essential, building a system where she's just another piece instead of the clear focal point. And honestly, it's not a wild conclusion when you connect all the dots. Here's the reality right now. Caitlin Clark is fully healthy. She proved that on an international stage. She dominated the competition, led Team USA to an undefeated run, averaged the most assists in the entire tournament, and walked away with MVP honors. Then she came back and made it clear herself, she's 100%. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever are struggling to get fans into seats for preseason games. Not because people lost interest in basketball, but because of how this situation is being handled. The fan base isn't confused. They see exactly what's happening, and their response is intentional. They're sending a message. The Indiana Fever matter right now because of Caitlin Clark. That's the reality, whether the organization wants to fully embrace it or not. And if there's an effort, intentional or not, to downplay her importance, limit her presence, or keep her off the floor under the label of caution, it's going to hit where it hurts most. Attendance, revenue, energy, relevance. You can already see it happening. Seats are going unfilled. The excitement is fading, and at the center of it all is a player who has made it clear she's ready to go, just waiting for the green light. So now the question becomes simple. Is this truly about managing minutes, or is there a bigger strategy at play? Hit like if you think Caitlin Clark should be out there from the start. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe this is smart load management or something more calculated? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.